Welcome to the Dental Implant Practices podcast, where each episode will explore how to integrate dental implants into your practice and into bone, with your host, Dr. Philip Gordon.
Welcome back to another episode of the Dental Implant Practices podcast. I'm your host, Philip Gordon. Today, it's a great honor for me to introduce Dr. Michael Scherer. Mike, thanks for being on the show today.
Oh, Philip, it's really an honor to be here.
You are in California. Why don't you tell people where you're at? And then I'd like to dive into your backstory and kind of tell our listeners a little bit about your education, your advanced training, and kind of how you got started in your dental career with all the teaching and the private practice. So kind of give yourself a little introduction and some backstory, if you would, please.
Oh, perfect. Now I'm in private practice full-time here in Northern California. Man, it's a small town in the rural foothills of kind of the Sierra Nevada range. And we're approximately 2 hours east of San Francisco. So many people know Yosemite National Park, and we're kind of a bedroom community for the national park. And there's a lot of sort of touristy activities, but it's primarily a retiree community and bedroom community of the San Francisco Bay Area. So a big part of my practice is on the older population. So, somebody that would be considered young in my patient population would probably be about 50. And it's really right for me as the type of dentistry that I do. But it's really a fun place because I've always been kind of a more quiet-paced type of guy, even though I sometimes live two lives where, I'm doing this digital stuff and full arch stuff on Facebook and things like that. But, in my private life and here in Sonora, we keep things very, very quiet and on the DL. So it's really kind of a nice dichotomy. But the magic of it is that dentistry is such an amazing profession. You can really just carve out whatever you can dream. And it's an honor and privilege to be part of dentistry. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's great how you can, find a lot of niches of your type of practice, the type of people you want to live in, and the type of dentistry you want to do. That's an exciting time. We don't have to be kind of all things to all people, and then we can find what we're passionate about and find a group of people that want and need our services and dive into that. And I know implant dentistry is that little niche for me and is for you. And it's great that there's a part of that in dentistry and that we get to participate in that. Where did you do your undergraduate and graduate training? And then how did you get into the teaching and the practice that you're in now?
Well, it's an interesting story. So I'm an East Coast boy, grew up in South Florida and split my time between Fort Lauderdale and the Florida Keys. And, did dental school down there at Nova, met my other half and my wife now when we were students at Nova. And long story short, she's a California girl. I'm a Florida boy. So anybody that knows a Californian, you typically will draw you out to that state just because once a Californian, always a Californian. Mm-hmm. But the reality is California is really a wonderful state. And there's so many people that say so many negative things about California. But being an East Coast boy and a Floridian, that's always home for me. And when I graduated dental school, I practiced for 2 years down in the Florida Keys. So literally Key West, Big Pine Key, and Marathon, I was literally practicing with a dentist that, practiced barefoot. And it was a really neat experience. And that's kind of really where I laid some of the foundational roots for sort of my understanding of implant dentistry. Of course, I had the honor and privilege at Nova. We had a tremendous amount of potential for being able to play with implant dentistry. Many schools around the country don't have that opportunity. And I've seen that on the teaching side as well as on the academic side. But there was some key faculty at Nova that were really instrumental for laying the foundation. But, the funny thing is that we always kind of, hark back and reel back to how you get started. And many of us end up in dentistry because we're kind of tooly, mechanic-y type people. And I would imagine if Philip, if you were to run a poll like, hey, how many of you listening to my podcast and a part of the Facebook group started with playing Legos when you were a little kid? I would imagine probably everybody would raise their hands, So we're always mechanically drawn to sort of these nuts and bolts and parts and pieces, whether, you have you're a guy or a girl, doesn't really matter, because sometimes people fall into those, stereotypes, but I clearly disagree with that, because the reality is you get to it and you see what it's like. Implant dentistry is really, really an amazing aspect of clinical dentistry. But, after clinical practice, I just kind of wanted to step aside from practice and go back to academics. It was kind of during the downturn of the 2007, 2008 economy, when the whole country was imploding financially. Practice was really struggling. And I thought it was a really great time to kind of go and hide in academics. And I went back to prosthodontics residency and went to Ohio State. And after that, I took a faculty position at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, for approximately 2.5 years while my wife was finishing up her orthodontics training program at Loma Linda. And it further cemented, my love of implant dentistry. So after that, came to clinical practice here in Northern California and really kind of began there. But, teaching has always been really instrumental to me. And, whether it was back at Nova, the funny story is that somebody asked me, they say, how did you two meet? Well, in dental school. And, oh, tell me more. Well, I was the anatomy tutor and she was the anatomy tutee. So in many ways, you can read as much into that as you like. But the reality is that teaching is really a wonderful part of dentistry. And really as doctors and doctors of the mouth, oral condition, we're all educators. And some of us find their educational roles as patient, clinician perspective. And other people say, well, let's go into the educating doctor perspective and, take it from there. So that's just kind of a quick summary of where I've started and where we are now.
Excellent. So you've jumped around, had a lot of experiences. I think, there's so much potential with prosthodontics and, especially where it's at nowadays with implants being such a large part of that, if you so choose. What was your implant training like? Did you say you received most of that in your prosthodontics training, or have you taken more specialized training since then? Or where did you really find the great teaching and understanding for implantology? Obviously, you picked up the passion for it, but where did you really dive into the high-end training for that?
So that's a great question. Really, it began back in dental school. Mm-hmm. And many times we kind of broad brush and sugarcoat or even potentially ignore our professors when we're in dental school. And I really have to caution your listeners against that, because I've seen it over and over and over again where dental students are like, oh, I'm going to ignore my faculty because they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm going to go take this CE for a weekend and then I'll really learn dentistry and implant dentistry. And people say, hey, you really learn when you graduate dental school. That is one of the great myths of dentistry, in my opinion. I genuinely believe that dental school is a wonderful way of learning. And of course, it's the foundation of where we begin. But if fair disclosure, asterisk, it's not fair for everyone in the country, because there are some dental schools that are quite regressive and have very traditionalist models where it's dogma. But what I really experienced at Nova and then also at UNLV when I was a faculty there in the pre-doc level, if you have an open mind and you're willing to be there, meaning you're a student or you're a young resident or you're a young, recent grad and you want to learn implant dentistry, half of really learning is just being there, meaning, okay, maybe I'm going to look at this and say, God, it's a beautiful Saturday out. I want to go sit at the beach. Yeah, that's great. You do that. You got to recharge once in a while. But for the most part, I was always there looking at surgeries, always there saying, hey, you've got a case coming up. Can I just be there to suck spit for you? Just literally be there chairside next to you. Mm-hmm. And you've seen it over and over again. And I literally had somebody in my office yesterday. I don't often host people in my office, but there's this young gentleman who's literally going into dental school at UNLV next year. And I've helped kind of mentor him a little bit over the years. And he's literally a sales representative for one of the implant companies. So he's got a pretty good foundation in implant dentistry. And, you got to sit these people down and say, listen, Always be there, because somebody's going to say to you, hey, you've seen it a bunch of times. Okay, now I want you to jump in and do it once, and I'll be right there to kind of guide you along. So see one, do one, teach one is the triad of really understanding. And, when I was in dental school, I was always there. I was at the procedures, at the periodontist, at the surgery department, watching these surgeries over and over and over and over again. And I was in the prost department, watching how they were reconstructing and dealing with these little tiny parts and pieces. Then when I was in my private practice in the Florida Keys, my senior dentist, even though maybe I didn't have a patient scheduled during that time, I'd say, well, maybe I should just go home early. Nope. I'd stick around and dink around in the lab. And then I'd say, hey, what you doing there? And I'd watch him, how he managed an implant complication, broken screw, locator pickup, whatever you name it. And then, of course, when you get to residency, then you spend a little bit of time on the surgery side. And, as a pre-doc student, it's tough to get that surgery experience. And that really is highly dependent upon what school you go to. But at Ohio State, we had a fair amount of surgery experience. And then when I went to UNLV, I had a great mentorship with a periodontist there, where we just did a ton of cases together. And myself and Dr. Lockhart, that's his name, just an incredible person. We really sort of progressed what we could do at UNLV. So in all reality, the sum of that is that if you really want to do something, and if you are starting with implant dentistry, and really starting from new, whether it's on just the restorative side or just the surgical or both, half of winning is just being there, showing up and saying, hey, show me more. And when you're fresh out of school, maybe you didn't have that great experience in dental school, maybe you didn't have a great experience and you didn't have those opportunities, which I would argue that you always have those opportunities, no matter what school you go to. The key is just showing up. If you just graduated and you didn't take those opportunities, find a mentor, find a surgeon, find a periodontist, find another GP that's willing to kind of let you come in and watch some surgeries. I've yet to find an oral surgeon that doesn't encourage somebody to come watch surgeries, So the reality is that if you have that connection, you can find somebody you can pair up with, or in a formal sense, if you want to take some courses, like the Maxi course or other individualized courses from study clubs around the country, there are resources out there. And again, half of that time is just saying, okay, shoot, it's a beautiful Saturday. Maybe I want to go spend it with my family. Nope, it's time for me to invest some time in my future, my understanding of implant dentistry. And it just takes some time. But then you get in there, you do some reps, pick and choose your cases to begin with. Don't start with a number 8 or number 9, anterior tooth on a young female with a high smile line. That's the kiss of death. Start with a single number 19 or number 30 posterior molar and an overdenture case. And, your first implant case should be a success. You want to do whatever you can to ensure that you have a great experience. And then literally it's the bug that starts, crawling around under your skin and you just can't get it out of your system. You just got to keep going. And the secret of implant dentistry is just being there, showing up, but then also knowing to invest in yourself. And that just takes time, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell people, like you said, showing up, I say, it's all about FaceTime. And I say that, I've been using that term before the iPhone came out with the actual FaceTime. We could call people. I mean, it's like getting your face in front of people and watching and learning and just asking to be there and asking to acknowledge the fact that you don't know it all, and then find people that do and learn from them. I think the biggest thing, like you said, is showing up, putting in the work, and then seeking out others that are doing something that you think is impressive and great, and see what you can take from them, and then go on and find other training and know that your training never really ends. It's always about continually self-improving, and that your real competition is with yourself, and say, how can I continually improve myself and my skills and my craft and my education, and how can I put together these pieces of information in this ever-changing world in a way that I can deliver for my patients in a way that makes a difference for them. So I like your approach to that. It's a good one. It's obviously gotten you to where you're at now, and so obviously that's great, because I think you've accomplished a lot in a little time. Let's talk about some other things you're doing. You've got a lot of kind of balls in the air right now with outside of your private practice, you do some speaking, you put on some courses. You've got a book that I really love, and you're involved quite a bit with the Overdentures and the Zest company. Tell me about your relationship with Zest and this book that you wrote called Lost Your Teeth, But Not Your Appetite. I picked that up when I was actually went and visited the Zest Center in Carlsbad, California, and really love everything you're doing with them. So let's talk about your Overdenture experience, your courses, your relationship with Zest, and your book a little bit.
Well, that's thank you for pointing that out too, and highlighting that. It's always interesting because we're in a digital social media world where people see me and they say, "Oh, Mike, you're just into that digital stuff and 3D printing," and that's true. That's a passion of mine. But my original passion in implant dentistry is treating patients with tools that can dramatically improve their lives with minimal investment. What I wrote in the book too is an introduction forward. When I was in dental school at Nova, one of the most important people in my life, her name is Eula. She, was a sort of kind of a family friend that helped watch over me when I was really young, and we've kept a relationship with her for years and years and years. And she comes from a very meager financial background and means, but she was always there for me and taught me right from wrong. Where my parents told me things, you sometimes broad brush them, but when her wooden spoon came out, you listened. And she came to me when I was in dental school, and she had this mouthful of pain, and she didn't never want to ask me because she was too proud to admit it. And I said, "What's going on, Eula?" She says, "Well, my tooth's hurting." I said, "Well, let's take you out to the school and see what we can do, and let's figure out something." So I brought her out to school, and she had no car, so I literally had to pick her up, and she was older, and drive her back and forth between appointments. And yeah, she had a mouthful of decaying, nasty teeth and partials that were failing. And I said, well, let's think about taking these out. And there's this thing called an overdenture. We can give you a couple of these little posts and clips and then make you some teeth, and it'll be awesome. And when you're a dental student, you have no idea. You're like, "Oh, okay, let's do everything with overdenture. That sounds great." And long story short, we put into immediate denture, had a couple of implants placed by one of the perio residents, and he was fantastic, and put the implants in. We restored her, and she's been wearing an upper denture with a lower 2 implant overdenture with locators from 2004. And every time that I go back to Florida to see her, I bring my little locator kit with me to service this thing. And it's now been, how many years is that? And she's still on her original inserts from when I placed it back. I think it's in 2005 is when we totally finished her case. So it's 14 years now. And, you see what sort of amazing result that has with such a low cost. And, we get really focused in implant dentistry about full arch reconstruction with the screw retained bridges and, metal ceramics and porcelain zirconias, custom abutments, all these frameworks and blah, 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 blah. And the reality is that you can really treat a patient with an implant overdenture very effectively for very reasonable costs. And when the cost of healthcare expenditure is so high, we can do very well with implant overdentures. And when I went to clinical practice, I realized that, we were doing root form overdentures at my practice down in the Keys, and then transitioning patients towards implant overdentures from the root form locators to implant locators. And then that really got me going. So then when I went to Ohio State, I said, this is what I want to do my research master's project on overdentures. I remember sitting down with my co-faculty, and he looks at me and he says, "Are you sure you really want to do this? Most residents want to do bars and all this stuff, And I said, nope. This is kind of what I wanted to do. So I did a lot of research at Ohio State, published a couple of papers there. And, when I went to the university in Nevada, I want to do some additional research papers. So, I still remember with one of my research papers calling up Zest and literally dialing the phone number, being the poor resident, can't get any parts from the school. Nobody wants to support you. So I call up and I say, "Hey, I'm doing a research paper." "Oh, it's great. Here, let me transfer you." And literally, Mr. Zest from Zest Anchors at the time picks up the phone and says, "Hello, how can I help you?" And I said, "Oh my God, I've got literally the Zest guy on the phone." And he sent me all the parts and pieces for all my research and projects to support the school. And it really cemented to me that Zest was really an incredible company. And then when I went out into private practice, I started doing a lot more implant overdenture cases, which led to a lot of just kind of case reports. And I wanted to kind of continue the research side of things. So I've had a healthy relationship with them, just kind of assisting on their education, clinical side. And then I do a little bit of R&D as well as product type of assistance for them from the clinical consulting side. So I've helped them, on various capacities, but it's really an incredible company. And, they're no longer small family run. They're owned by a corporate partner, but they still have the family feel. So when you go there, like I know you told me you went there, it's really kind of a nice, welcoming type of place. So, and on top of that, they make very good products. So it's really a pleasure to kind of find something in implant dentistry that really, in my opinion, contributes tremendously to patients. And then on top of that, being able to educate clinicians around the world of not only can you improve patients' quality of life, but you can do pretty good ROI on implant overdentures.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. I think before you step into something full fixed and all this, sexy stuff you see on the internet and at these conferences that say, learn to master overdentures because there's a lot more wiggle room for error if you're just starting out. You can really not cover up your mistakes, but it's less important exactly the precise positioning of the implants to some degree as the overdenture can cover up a lot of anatomical variations, right? And two, like you said, the ROI is great because you're basically taking a denture that may be a normal denture. I mean, you may add some framework and some other various moving parts, so there may be some additional cost, but really your fees can be quite considerable for the amount of time and parts. In addition to the life-changing effect you have on your patients, which is substantial at times. If you're taking someone from a denture, which they've struggled with, to an overdenture, it's can be such an improvement in their life. In the confidence and chewing ability and just overall satisfaction that they have is great. So I really I try to do as many of those in my office as I can because the predictability, the success, and the happiness factor is just through the roof on all those. The full arch cases can take so much time and headaches. They can be a lot more stressed than they are excitement at times. So really, the overdenture is a great one for that. What's the latest with the overdenture world? I know they've got their new FTX system and all that. What's your practice like as far as which type of locators you're using and in what proportion, and how would you recommend people introduce their practice to the Zest process?
Absolutely. Great question. So a big part of my practice is implant overdentures for many of the reasons that you just mentioned, but I still do a fair number of full arch fixed cases. And the funny thing is like you were mentioning, the fixed side is really rewarding too, but it's a significant amount of more challenging, more difficult laboratory work and higher patient expectations. And, I've always kind of sought out solutions that allow me to balance the overdenture side compared to the fixed side. So, one of the products that was released was the Zest FTX system, which is a true fixed, abutment system. So the only difference is that instead of using a screw channel where you have like a tie base or you have some sort of metal connection with a receiving or retaining screw, the FTX system uses a very strong and durable PEEK ball that causes the metal housing that's in the denture to rigidly attach to the metal abutment, very similar to like a locator, but it's not removable by the patient. And it's a true metal on metal connection, but it feels during the processing like a locator, because part of what's really simple about an overdenture is that if you systematize it, which I really recommend most clinicians doing a chair side pickup of their locator or locator RTX, et cetera, type of abutments, or even O-rings and O-balls and whatnot. The reality is that if you systematize it, a locator overdenture is extremely simple step-by-step to do. And when you go and you take that to the fixed world, one way to get better, or probably in my opinion, the best way to get better at full arch fixed implant dentistry is getting very good at dentures. And what we know about full arch reconstruction I mean, arguably, what we know all about cosmetic dentistry is all based upon our understanding of denture teeth and how denture teeth are positioned, the centric, vertical, tooth inclination, papilliform, etc. And anybody who says, I don't care about dentures suck, so I'm going to go do full arch fix because I am a fixed only dentist, I don't do those lowly dentures, is fooling themselves. They are absolutely kicking themselves, because the more that we know about dentures, the better fixed dentist you'll be. And so with the FTX system, it's literally a locator, but you squirt some stuff into the final zirconia, polymer, metal frame, whatever, and you pick up the attachments chairside when you deliver the prosthesis. You're essentially taking a locator overdenture that's it's just literally the bar itself, gluing that to the abutments in the mouth and converting it into a fixed prosthesis. And that's really magical. So a big part of my practice is still overdentures, and then a smaller portion would be fixed. But maybe that's just by design, just because I like it. However, I still do both quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I think you have to get really good at dentures if you want to do anything full arch, because like you're saying, you're basically wiping out all the teeth and you're starting at a denture and, or moving teeth around in space. I think it's, you have to be really, really good at removable pros, especially full denture pros, to get good at full arch, because it's not like you're just prepping teeth and putting crowns on and that's that. I mean, you're redesigning someone's facial smile and the way they speak, the way they smile, their visual profile, basically. So it's being very good at dentures is a huge part of being good at any type of full arch rehabilitation. So definitely, like you, recommend that as well. And with the FTX, it gives you the variability, like you're saying, to take your game from the removable to the fixed in a way that is understandable and just kind of the next step up as far as patient expectations, but still kind of keeping a similar process. Like you said, keeping things systematized. I think that's a great way to do things in your office. Develop a system, implement it, get good at it, and then expand from there. Other than overdentures and the fixed retained prosthetics, you offer a lot of other digital dentistry courses and other things that you're doing. As far as the courses and the speaking you're doing these days, what are you offering? What are you a part of? I know I heard you speak at the Las Vegas Maxi course, so I know you're involved in helping out in some Maxi course teachings. What else is on your speaking plate that people can see you or catch you at? I know you were doing some course offerings through Zest, through some overdenture courses. So kind of tell people what you're teaching, how they can learn from you, what kind of offerings you have, and all those things.
It's interesting, the opportunities that present to ourselves is really wonderful as part of dentistry. And, when I got started with the private practice side, I was always still at that time working a lot with implant overdentures and the surgical side. So that was my big start. And then when I got to private practice, you start looking at the systems like you were talking about. And the big system was finding something in my practice that really I wanted to improve upon from a system point of view. And for me, that was my crown and bridge dentistry, eliminating PVS impressions for quadrant or single crown or even implant cases. I've always considered myself more of a removable type of dentist rather than a fixed, just because it was always a huge interest of mine. And I thought to myself, why is that? And I always said, well, the number one reason why I did not like crown and bridge dentistry or full arch fixed especially was the impression stress, meaning that, you know what I'm talking about, Phil, where, you pull the cord and you squirt some light body PVS and then you see a little red dribble come out of the PVS, or the patient goes, hey, what's that? And they smear their tongue all over, the light body PVS. And then you have the patient bite down on this triple tray and they go, oh, Lord, I hope I got it. And then 4 or 5 minutes later, 3 minutes later, whatever, your assistant charges at you, and it's the triple tray march of thump, 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 thump. And they're like I'm running away from my assistant because I'm like, oh my God, please make sure I capture this margin. Just tell me, is it good? It's like opening up the letter of your dental school acceptance letter. Oh my God, just read it. Tell me. And the reality is that it used to stress me out. And then I'd go, oh my God, I hope I got this margin. And when I came to practice, I bought my practice. And I just said, digital is the way to go. Impressioning is there. And I evaluated all the systems on the market. And I bought a 3M scanner just because it was really affordable, the small tip one. It was very accurate at the time, or it still is very accurate. But at the time, it was really probably the most sophisticated scanner on the market. And then I implemented that and literally haven't looked back since. The improvement in a clinical practice of using intraoral scanning was tremendous. And then once I started using that on a routine basis, my models would come back from the lab. They were 3D printed, and they were printed in Minnesota. It would go to my lab. It was a pretty cool workflow. But then I started getting a few cases where I was like, God, I wish I could do like a quick wax up on this, Because then all of a sudden I'm like, I hate sitting at my lab bench with literally wax and like waxing up teeth. And I said, no, okay, as much as I like the smell of wax, I could probably do this in 2 minutes. And I still remember the number one thing that bugged me was bleaching tray models. And you do this alginate impression, and then all of a sudden you hope that your assistant pours it right and doesn't get a bubble or void in the incisal edge. And then you trim this model, hope it doesn't break on your trimmer. And then you use this blue stuff that you buy from Ultradent that you spray on the front of the teeth, and then it sticks everywhere. It gets your fingers blue. And then you do a vacuum form over it, hoping the blue stuff doesn't transfer. I mean, it's insane, this process. And I remember just saying, okay, I'm going to do my own bleaching trays. And I had to teach myself some of this weird software that no dentist was using at the time. And, I was too cheap to buy 3Shape or ExoCAD at the time. So screw it. I've always been a computer person. I'll teach this to myself. And Lord, that took some time. There was no manual at the time. There was no Facebook groups of people, teaching each other how to do this stuff. It was literally some dork hacker that playing for hours and hours and hours on my computer, just learning how to do the basic steps. And so I said, okay, I've got it. I figured this out. But the problem is I had to outsource to a laboratory to do this. And then I said, well, 3D printers, that's really starting to come on board. And right around 2012, 3D printing kind of really made a big jump, where Formlabs kind of launched a Kickstarter campaign early on, 2011, 2012. And I was an early kind of contributor to that, and got a Form 1 and, just started playing and hacking with it. And I was probably one of the first real users of, Dentistry Formlabs. And there was a couple of other people playing with it at the time, but nothing really concrete. And I remember sending some stuff to Formlabs. They're like, oh my God, I didn't realize you can do this. And I said, you guys are ignoring dentistry. You need to get on this. And, thankfully they've changed their tune since then. But the reality is the take home message is that for your listeners, find something that you want to improve on in your practice, whether it's the systems of implant overdentures or saying, you know what, that PVS stuff bugs the heck out of me, or I want to do a bite splint and it just bothers me doing this step. And you find little progressive things to do that. And I found over the years of playing with intraoral scanners and 3D printing that it literally has changed everything that I do in my practice without changing the way that I practice. And I could never imagine going back to alginate and PVS. And, part of what I've done is established a little bit of just some formalized education with making that simple, because that little story I told earlier about, it took me approximately 6 months, or maybe not that long, maybe like 3 months of just playing with the software to figure out how to do the most basic tasks. And, I've said there's got to be a better way. So when clinicians said, hey, Mike, could you just show me how to do that? I formalized it, just created some online courses through a group called Fast Track Dental CE, Facebook group, in-person courses. And it's really been a fun journey since then. But the part of it is just sending along the passion of, I know the vision of where we need to get to in dentistry. even though dentists will sit back and say, I don't need that. That's fancy technology for you fancy dentists. The reality is it's a matter of time, Philip, a matter of time before the death of alginate and PVS. Without a doubt, there's no question in my mind.
Yeah, no, it's all heading that way, and it's just a matter of at what point you join in. I've decided to take a big leap this year myself, and I'm going to be bringing in a in-house lab technician to help me do a lot of things in-house. You're talking about when you find things and you get frustrated and say, gosh, there's got to be a better way. And it's not that I can cut out, how can I cut out the middleman to save a buck? It's more so, how can I have less steps with more precision and deliver a better product to the patient? And while also reducing your stress and understanding of dentistry. So that's a different step and time point for everybody. But as a whole, the industry is moving that way. So it's kind of one of those things, eventually you're going to have to get in the game. It's at what point you get in the game and to how deep you want to go. But it's definitely heading there. And I think people need to be aware of it. So on that note, I know you have recommendations that you would give or have for an iOS scanner, maybe in-house milling or 3D printers. What advice would you have for someone who says, hey, I'm looking to get some of those things. I'm looking to do some either minor or major work in my office with general dentistry and implantology. What advice would you have for those, or where would you have them look?
Well, that's a great question, Philip. And, I'd love to touch base also on your vision for lab tech in your own office, because that's something I firmly believe in also. So maybe if we can come back to that in a bit.
Sure.
But my primary advice to your listeners and for those that are interested in jumping into or even just dabbling in digital dentistry is, first and foremost, reach out and connect with people that are already doing it. Either in a formal sense, just a shameless little plug, you're welcome to take one of my courses or join our online course, the fasttrackdentalce.com. Or there's a lot of great people out there also doing it, like Rick Ferguson down in Florida, just an incredible human. And he's got online or in-person courses in Florida, and he's been teaching with Raul Gonzalez all over the country on clear aligners, just really incredible people. And, when you connect with folks like us or like on your Facebook group, just incredible community, that I did not have, 10 years ago or even 15 years ago in dentistry, many times we're kind of spoiled right now where you can just literally go online on Facebook and connect with people all over the world and say, hey, I just figured out this little shortcut with the software. How cool is that? And, the reality is you got to connect with people, take a course, because if you just buy the equipment and you listen to your sales rep and you go to a meeting and dentists love to, gut purchase. You go to a meeting and you're like, oh my God, I'm just going to buy that right now. Well, it's a serious mistake. Yeah. And you got to do a little understanding before you buy, because you have to figure out what's the right technology for you, because not everybody is going to love iTero or Scherer or the Trios or Medit. Not everybody's going to love one mill or the other. You got to find out what works good for you. Sure. And what's going to implement well in your practice. So connect with people and then find out what you want to do with the technology. And if all you want to do is replace your PVS for triple trays, your crown and bridge dentistry, really any intraoral scanner is going to work to do that. Then you have to ask yourself, do I want to do same day dentistry? Do I want to do in-house in my office, single unit ceramic crowns? Arguably, Scherer is still the best system to do that with. Why? Because it's literally all integrated. You just tell somebody, here's the money, set it up for me. And there's a lot of dentists that need that, where they say, I don't want to have to go ahead and spend, hundreds of hours like you, Mike, figuring this out. I've got a busy life. I've got kids. I don't want to go home at 9 p.m. Every night for the first 2 months while I teach this to myself. If you're that type of person, just literally take out a bank loan. Here's my money. Shine Patterson for the Scherer system. And then if you say, well, okay, maybe that's not for me. Maybe all I want to do is replace my PVS, just buy an intraoral scanner. There's no question. When you look at the purchase of an intraoral scanner, that has been the best ROI for me in my clinical practice in 13 years. And the reality is that when you look at this technology, anybody who says that you cannot ROI an intraoral scanner is fooling themselves. There is no question the number one ROI for my crown and ridge dentistry practice is intraoral scanning. Now, it comes down to, missed margins, multiple impressions, and then multiple crowns or multiple try-in visits, et cetera. So yeah, from a basic point of view, a triple tray impression material cost is not going to be cheaper, or is not going to be, it's going to be a better ROI than an intraoral scanner from that one thought perspective. But you have to think about the time, you have to think about your clinical time, crown seat appointments, and also the flexibility associated with it. And then in addition to that, the practitioner stress, meaning that if you look at this and you say, God, I don't want to diagnose Wi-Fi issues, I never want to touch a computer ever in my whole life, yeah, then maybe intraoral scanner is not good for you. But not necessarily. If you have a dental assistant that's really good at technology and maybe can diagnose that computer and you just hand the wand to them and you say, go scan, then you can be a digital dentist as well. Yeah. So once you kind of figure out what you want, then you say, okay, I'm going to start slow, just get the scanner. Maybe I'll get this 3D printer thing because maybe I want to do some basic models. Maybe I want to do some bleaching models. And then you teach your assistant, or you have your assistant take a course or an online course with how to use a basic 3D printer. And I've had a lot of assistants take my courses for that reason. And then you grow from there. If you're the type of person, this is the best analogy that I've got, Philip. If you're the type of person that has to go ahead and seamlessly connect your calendar. So think about it this way. How would I connect my phone, my computer, my tablet, and my office calendar all together? Not easy. But Apple makes that easy, where you use some sort of iCloud. And they literally, with the swipe of your finger, you connect everything seamlessly, and they show up and pop up easy. And then how many of us would do the exact same thing where you could integrate your iPhone with your Windows PC and your Android tablet all together seamlessly, so when you edit the calendar on one, it syncs on the other? Much, much more difficult, but it can be done. So for those that want that easy connectivity of the iCalendar, you buy the Scherer. And if you are open to saying, I'm going to download this file from this software and re-import into another software, and then maybe I sometimes have to troubleshoot that once in a while, you can go open and you can go to things like, hey, maybe I'll get a 3-shape scanner, I'll get an ExoCAD software with a Roland or VHF mill, and I can do same-day ceramics, just like Scherer, and spend 50% less money. So just some thoughts, but both of those are good solutions for dentists.
Yeah, like you said, it's do I want to be plugged in the system, which has historically kept me away from Sirona, but do you want to be open source and be able to export to other people and play around with other machines? And so that's why, I'm trying to look at an open-based system for myself. But like you said, it really depends what you want to do with it. I'm moving over to the digital world, and I'm also trying to bring in some help because I know I can't do it all, like you said. And I'm going to bring in a lab technician because I don't pretend to be a lab technician myself, and don't necessarily have the desire to do that. So, for myself, it might be different than somebody else, and those are just the needs and the demands of my dentistry and my patient and my workflow and my cost and my personality, right? And my desires to what I want to take on and what I don't. And I understand the need for it. I just don't want to have to do it all. So that's kind of where I'm at. What advice would you have for people like me that want to bring somebody in to kind of say, this is your gig and we're going to do it in-house?
That's genuinely where I think, and this is interesting, I've really thought about this for some time. Many people think that dentistry and private practice dentistry is on its way out, and it's a world of corporate dentistry, and we're all going to be in these mega groups and mini clinics and hospitals. And I really think that that's incorrect. I think the cottage industry of dentistry, and part of the reason why many of us went into dentistry is for that cottage industry feel. I don't think that's going to be going away anytime soon. What I do think is going to be happening in probably the next 5 to 10 years is that we will, either as independent solo clinicians, but more likely small little kind of collaborations between clinicians, whether we run independent practice in a shared environment, meaning like if I have my own receptionist, my own software, and then I've got another doctor that shares space, almost like a co-work type of environment. But we have two completely independent practices, or in a group practice setting where it's all one software, one accounts, receivables, all that. But I do genuinely believe one of those two models is going to be prevalent, where we share also a laboratory that services our patients in our practices. So, case in point, in my practice, I have my practice with my wife, who's an orthodontist, and we do have a laboratory technician that comes in 2 days a week, and his background is in removable, and he is amazing. And I genuinely think that the future of where we're going to, and I get a little flack online from laboratory technicians who think I'm trying to put them out of business by saying, hey, you can do this cheaper, you can save on costs. I genuinely think that the laboratory technician world and industry and profession is going to grow. And those that can do it and those that can be good at it, we're going to position themselves to do extremely well. Just like those clinicians who position themselves with in-house laboratory technicians, either in small group or collaborative or their own private practices, are going to grow further, because patients are going to start demanding a little bit more individualized attention. And then if me, like I posted a case online the other day, I can take forget just the cost alone, but cost is a big part of it. And if I could take my lab cost from outsourcing to, say, Glidewell or something of that nature, it's going to cost me $2,000 to $3,000 an arch for an all-on-4. If I can do that with my in-house laboratory technician for $200 to $400, that gives me a lot of flexibility. And it's not only about the cost, like you're saying, it's also about knowing that my price point is a little bit lower. So if I have a patient that's a little bit on edge about the finances, I can reduce my fee somewhat and enhance greater access to care of those type of prosthetics. In addition to that, the collaborative between myself and my internal laboratory technician allows me to deliver superior care, because instead of having to send a case to a large lab like the one I just mentioned earlier before, where your case gets a little bit lost, like I might have a different technician every time I call in, or I have to go through a call routing system, and then just simply sending an email of some clinical photos is sometimes a feat. Instead of having 2 or 3 clinical try-ins of changing the bite or changing the smile, I've got my technician literally right there that he or she and I are sitting down going, no, I think it should be this tweak or this tweak. And that takes maybe 2 to 3 minutes of my time. And it ensures that the case is going to go to delivery the next visit. And not only does that save things from a material cost, but it enhances collaboration and gives a much better patient a result from the clinical side. So I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah, I couldn't be more thrilled. I'm bringing in a lab technician that I've been using for 4 or 5 years in town, and some of the most fun days are when I bring him in right now, third party, and we do these conversion cases together, and he gets to actually see the patient and have patient interaction, which he never has sitting behind a lab bench somewhere else. And then also I get to do the surgery and then say, okay, I'm going to help. And then, he helps jump in, and I say, okay, take it from there. And we'll say, okay, well, let's tweak this. Let's align that. Let's make the bite here. And he can see that in the mouth. I can see it in the mouth. And then I know, and he knows that next time we deliver, it's going to work, because we both have seen and collaborated live with the patient in the chair. And then he goes back and does his thing, and I go back and do my thing. And those are the most fun days we have together. And I know there's so much that person, that laboratory technician who's equally skilled and crafted as I am in their niche, can teach me things, and I can teach them things, and we can grow together in that understanding. And that's my hope, is that, like you said, we get a better product in a shorter time and a more boutique process. And it will give me a flexibility to say, okay, maybe, if from a competitive standpoint, if I am competing with a Clear Choice or a whatever dental that says, hey, I can do these things for cheap, or well, maybe they can't, right? Or maybe they can't do them better, or maybe they can't do them as personalized. So it might give you a leg up on an advantage from that standpoint. And, or if you might be able to say, look, maybe I can just reduce my cost and give that to the patient and say, look, this gives me the ability to say, if normally I would treat, X amount of patients per month, now I can treat more patients because they can afford it, because the financial limitations aren't as strapping for me and my protocols, and I can pass that saving to the patient. So I think there's an opportunity there, and I think the digital workflows are going to do nothing but increase those opportunities. And I look at that and say, look, there's more opportunities for lab techs to join forces with dentists in ways they never have. So I don't see this as a threat to the dental technician field, because ultimately, me as a dentist, I need to be spending my time on patient care, and that's where I'm most effective. And the lab technician needs to be spending his time on lab technician care. But I think it's more of a merging of those two together, whereas historically it's, they live in their world and we live in our world, and there's no communication between the two. I'd like to see those two really be fully merged and integrated together.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you put the nail on the head too when you talk about more patient-centered care. We as clinicians cannot ignore direct-to-consumer and do-it-yourself dentistry and corporate dentistry. And patients will always seek out cottage industry, private practice dentists. There will always be patients that will come to practices like yours or mine who say, you know what? I don't want to do my own dentistry. What kind of crap is that? Or I don't want to go to a Mick dentistry and, be a number. And Clear Choice is an amazing organization. And contrary to what a lot of clinicians feel about them, they do some pretty good quality stuff. The reality is, though, is that model would not work if they did not have an in-house technician. Mm-hmm. And when we start to create our practices and as we grow as a profession, we have to further cement the value as us, meaning the patients are coming into our practices to buy Dr. Gordon. They're not coming in to buy Dr. Gordon's widget. They're not coming into Dr. Scherer's practice because the Keurig coffee machine is really great. No, that's a part of the experience, yes, but they're right. They're coming in to buy us. And in a world where we have to compete against corporate and we have to compete against do-it-yourself, direct-to-consumer aligners, well as I do that direct-to-consumer dentures are on the horizon. And we know that to create that experience where a patient says it's worth spending the extra money to go see Dr. Gordon or Dr. Scherer or whomever, you know what? That is how we continue to evolve in an ever-changing landscape of what's happening in dentistry. And anybody who doesn't do that, the term evolve or die, and I don't want to be dramatic about that, but we cannot, as a profession, put our heads in the sand.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and two, it gives us something to energize about and dream about. I think, me, myself, I'm always trying to push myself, not for the sake of anything other than just to challenge myself, because I think it's what rewards us as humans, to say, let's go learn something new, whether that's if you're into cars or whether that's you're into airplanes. For me, I happen to really dig dentistry and not all aspects, but definitely implant dentistry. So for me, it's just a passion, and it's what I like, and so I continually try to push myself, and that's why I've created the podcast and the Facebook group. It's not a hey, look at me thing. It's more let me find other people that are like-minded like me, and we can share from each other, knowing that there's a community of people out there who want to learn and grow. And if you can surround yourself with those people and everybody's got something to contribute, then in the end, we all learn and grow together. And I think that type of dentistry is always going to be there, and those type of patients are going to be there as well. And so just continuing to push the boundaries with that. Yeah, I would like to bring up your website, michaelscheerdmd.com. It's got all these resources we're talking about, and I'm going to post out in the show notes for people, but it's got all kinds of great things you've got on there, your speaking schedule, how people can get a hold of you, the blog that you have, the courses that you teach, whether they are online courses or physical courses people can go to. So it's really a great resource for people to learn and grow. And I know you've got these things mastered, and to be able to spend the amount of time to learn everything that would take, somebody years and years. So you've got these processes condensed down so people can learn them in a short period of time. And I think that's fantastic. What else would you want to share with the group that we haven't covered? Obviously, you've got a lot going on. What are you looking forward to coming up? What's in the next cycle, or what's in the next year, or what's on the horizon for you?
It's always difficult to predict what we're going to do. And if you were to ask me even just a couple years ago, or even 8 months ago, hey, Mike, what do you think is going to be happening in 6 to 8 months? I would say, I have no idea, Philip. And I've been saying that digital dentures and 3D printed dentures or milled dentures, in your own office has been on the horizon. Well, it's going to be 6 months away. And I've been saying that for the past 3 years. And the reality is that's here now. Digital dentures is real. It's something that anybody can do, and you can print it. You can print a denture for less than $8 an arch. And, that's a wonderful service for us to be able to offer to our patients. I think where we're headed to, and I thank you for those kind words also about the website. And, I've got publications and stuff on there. Connect with me. And I think where the future is really headed with dentistry is the interconnectivity between patient, dentist, and us as a community. And, just to speak about the community, what you're doing with this podcast, and you've got a really great Facebook group. Thank you for taking all the time and effort that you do as well. And being able to bring dentists and technicians and assistants together where we all get to kind of share the stories, maybe share the perils also, and we grow as a profession, as a community. That's really where dentistry should be headed. Even though we are in a cottage industry, we can't just hide in our four walls. Take pictures, share cases, learn from each other. And number one thing, be kind to each other. There's so many people online that literally just turn so crazy and nasty sometimes. You know what? You just got to ignore those people. And, what happens is that sometimes I fall into that trap too. So I apologize if I have offended anybody online or on Facebook, but I always try to be as nice as I can. But you got to call people out when they're doing something stupid or fake. But the reality is that we have to be really collaborative and kind to each other, because when we do that, we grow as a profession, we do better. And then when we communicate and connect with patients, the growth of what I saw at the IDS show in Cologne in Germany, and I encourage you and all of your listeners, if you ever have a chance to go to Cologne to see the IDS show. Every 2 years they host it. It's literally a dental Disneyland or Disney World. I've never had anything so much fun in my whole life. And it's such a serious meeting. No offense. I love hygienists. I love assistants. But when you go to a show here in the States, it's like 90% assistants and hygienists just running around for free toothbrushes. You don't get that there. It's literally CEOs and tech nerds and people saying, hey, how can we grow this technology revolution in dentistry? And wow, go check it out. And what I saw at that event was the interconnectivity of patients to the chair side and technology. So technology is becoming front and center. The patient now can see what it looks like when their braces are literally on their teeth and with a slider of an app. They can see their new smile design with a slider on their phone or on your computer. No longer do you have to send this to a special smile design center 2 weeks later, bring the patient back in, et cetera. You can see a mock-up of their smile in augmented reality. And where we're headed with augmented reality and artificial intelligence in dentistry is literally the tip of the iceberg. That is the exciting horizon for where we are, probably for the next 6 months to 8 months, or however long that's going to be. But dentistry must stay true to its roots, first and foremost. So no matter what happens with technology, we have to go back to those core values that were instilled in us in dental school and residency, and our implant training programs, or whatever we take in CE. Those are key and fundamental. As we grow as a profession, that technology just merely complements what we should be doing clinically. And, whatever happens in the next few years, we have to fall back on that, collaborate and grow as a profession, and be kind to each other,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think being kind to each other is just a good rule of thumb as a human being. But I couldn't agree more with the IDS meeting in Cologne. I told my wife this year. I said, I know we missed it this year, hon, but I'm going in 2 years for sure. So that'll be a nice little trip that we're going to take, and I'm excited about that. I've never been, but I understand that the cultural openness in the world of dentistry is so different than the U.S. And so I'd love to help kind of bring that change into the U.S. market, is saying like, look, let's be in this together. We're not against each other here. We're with each other. But I do love the idea of the marketplace and the Disneyland of dentistry. And I like spending more time at the booths at these CE events sometimes than I do the lectures. So just the fact to be able to say I can go check out, 150, 300 different implant booths at one place just, excites me just to think about that. So, but yeah, no, I agree. It's hard to know where the future goes. It changes so rapidly. So that's why it's just good to keep your eyes and ears open and stay in contact with people like yourself who are leading the charge. And, we appreciate all the things you're doing for dentistry and the digital world. And look forward to seeing you soon. I'm going to probably come out and take one of your 3D courses now that I'm finally getting off my old school kind of techniques and trying to join the digital revolution. So I look forward to that. And I'm excited to see what you've got coming down the pipeline and your continued success, and really appreciate your time today. I think it's been great, and I hope the listeners have gotten some great information from you.
It's my pleasure, Philip. Thank you for having me. And, I look forward to hanging out with everybody on the Facebook group and interacting and collaborating.
All right. Well, take care. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.